The Bible says that God gives us power. Power is like electricity. And it can come into us and help us. Well, I've got another experiment that I'd like to show something to you. And maybe I can demonstrate a little more what I'm talking about. Now, when we ask Jesus to come into our heart, he comes into our heart and he gives us power inside. Now, I got a simple demonstration, and let me get a couple things out. Just one second. Okay, and I have an electric device. You can tell by the cord. Now, I have this device that I built. This is a device that I built to use for a demonstration to show you a little bit. Now, what's inside of here right now? Yes, young lady. Nothing. Well, is it true that there's nothing in there?
No.
What's actually in there?
Air.
Air, right. So there's a little bit of air inside, but that's about it. Now this thing, it's how do you know that there's air in there? You can't really see it. You can't really smell it. So what I've got here, I'm going to fill this up with something called this is just some smoke. Now I've got this machine that will make smoke for me. Yeah, that's always the way. It worked every time I tried it in practice. Kind of messed me up. There we go. Just have to be patient. Now this is harmless smoke. It won't hurt you. But if I fill this thing up with smoke, okay, if I fill this up with smoke, what happens? The smoke wants to come back out, right? The smoke doesn't like being inside of here. It wants to come out. Well, in science, we have a principle called the principle of entropy. And it's kind of a complicated thing. But basically, in very simple terms, what entropy means is that in nature, things like to go from a very organized state to a very disorganized state. Well, it's very organized by putting all the smoke inside of here. It's kind of all jammed together, but it doesn't like that. It wants to get out and be free. So the smoke wants to come out. But if I just kind of let it come out, it takes a long time for the smoke to come out. But this thing has a way that I can kind of force the smoke to come out. And watch very carefully what happens. You in the green shirt. version, the very fast version, what William tells us about. This was a man who, in order to save his son's life, they made him shoot an apple off the top of his head. Now, I don't have an apple. What I've got is a cup. Now, if you watch very carefully, think of how we can be filled with God, and God can come, and think of this trash can, think of that like us, that we can be filled with God, with God's power. But if we just get God's power inside of us and leave it there, we can't do anything. But if we want to do something, like if we want to shoot a cup off of somebody's head, then we have to let the smoke out. And in order to come out, it takes some effort on our part. I had to do something. I had to pull back on this string in the back and shoot the smoke out. Well, now, you may recall, I told you before, in Professor R.B.'s laboratory, we like to supersize our experiments. So, I got to thinking, how can I supersize this experiment? I will be ready. Is a supersized version of a smoke can. Now watch very carefully. Okay, now the smoke won't hurt you. It just stinks. Okay. Now watch very carefully what happens with my smoke can. Let Jesus come out of us and influence people around